And then finally, we have a few more examples. Obviously, I could go on and on and on forever and ever with examples. So I'm going to just give you a few more and then stop, and then leave you to figure out the rest as you progress. So these combine a lot of the different things, like they have consistency problems, rhythm, flow, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So when you look at the one up here, for example, you need to look at how the joints are coming together, you know, how the letters, the glyphs, actually their strokes join. And so with this here, for example, this R, now that's really problematic. That doesn't really join very well, does it? And then here, for example, we have another problem. This is round, this comes together in a round way, but then this is getting cut off in a more straight fashion, although it's not completely straight. There's still a roundedness to it, but it's the roundedness here is much, much bigger, obviously, than the roundedness here. So again, we get a lot of ambiguity here. Here, for example, the outlines are a problem. So on the outside, we have regular rounded strokes, but then on the inside, we suddenly have squares. So there's a contradiction here. It creates ambiguity. And then finally, this last one here. So now this one is really strange, because when we looked at Helvetica, I said that there are two really wide characters in the alphabet, the W and the M, and they are quite a bit wider than the medium ones, right? But look at what's happening here. The W is almost the same width as the A. So, in fact, we could even check this out. So if I here we go. So if I take this here, look, it's very, very close to the A. Obviously, it's a little bit wider, but it's still very, very, very close. But then also, the other thing is that it is much wider than the M. So you have a consistency problem here. The M, a character which should actually be quite wide, is narrow. The W is almost as narrow as a medium width character. And then when you look at the S is really, really skinny in comparison to the G or the A. And the S in reality is actually a medium width character. So if I put this here and bring this over here, look, it is so much narrower than the other medium widths that it's actually supposed to be together with, that it's supposed to be just a tiny little bit more narrow. Then we have something which is almost as narrow as a narrow character. So on this font down at the bottom, even though at first glance you may think that it looks nice because it has all of this nice round rhythm, it does have rhythm, there's no problem with the rhythm, but in terms of consistency there are huge, huge problems. Consistency of width. And here, to go back, we have a problem between, the outside stroke and the inside are very different. And here we have a problem with how the joints come together. So these are all kinds of things that you need to pay attention to when you are actually picking a font. It is never a question of, oh, I like this, and oh, this looks nice, and whatever. You need to hone in to the details. Also, for example, what you would do, obviously, needless to say, is you would write the name of your logotype, because if you're just using it for a logotype, it may work perfectly well. So I wrote Natura here, and it's not really working perfectly well because the N is actually a medium width character, and it's much narrower than the A, so that the N is a big problem here. But if the name of your company that you're making the logotype for is Natura, and if you're using this, want to use this font, you would write Natura and check it out. And then, like I said, you would probably decide not to use this because the N is much narrower than the A and the N. And you go back to here. If I change this with an N, and if I change the medium box here, it will be very close. It will be like the S, but it will certainly not be like this here, because this is really much narrower than the A, and it shouldn't be. Okay, so all this said, I will leave you to further explorations. Be very careful, think of the details, hone into the details, and you should be okay.